r/NoSleep. Posted by u/s4nj. The Homestead, Part 2, I went fishing. It did not end well. Well, it's me. I'm back. These past few weeks have been wild, and things have really gone down bad, but I'm safe. Or, that is, as safe as I can be in such a weird area. Right after the chicken coop incident, I decided it was high time to improve my home's security, eventually reaching a level of protection that would make a doomsday prepper envious. I hooked up security cameras everywhere on the property, particularly next to and on the cabin. I also bought more guns that I could stash around various areas in case I needed to access them quickly, assuming that whatever lived here didn't have opposable thumbs or anything that could use my own guns against me. And as a final touch, I completely revamped the basement by adding a stronger door and supplies like food, water, a spare mobile phone, and ammunition to hold my own for days, just in case things went catastrophic outside. I had always wondered why a log cabin of all places would have a basement, but now that I think about it, maybe the old man had a point. The next day, I decided to relax by going fishing at the lake at the edge of the property. Nothing like a good old fishing trip, and I would even be able to catch dinner. After putting out my daily bowl of milk for the cat, I grabbed my fishing pole, baits and some snacks before walking to the lake, hoping nothing odd would happen. Well, that was a tall order for this land, but I could only hope. I sat by the alluring lake for hours under a tree, casting my line hoping for a catch. It was a hot summer's day, but the payoff was huge, with me being able to catch several trout in 2 hours. The setting was idyllic and everything was going swimmingly well, and I wasn't even getting eaten alive by insects. I began to let my guard down. I mean, what could go wrong at such a time, right? Just as I thought that the beautiful blue sky darkened as dark clouds rolled in and blotted out the sky. However, me being focused on the fishing, I didn't notice the incoming storm until a shower of droplets began gently hailing upon me. It was then that I belatedly realized that I did not bring an umbrella or poncho with me. Guess I would have to brave the rain then. Now that I think about it, with my clear hindsight, the rain was the least of all my problems, given what came next. Suddenly, I heard a cat hissing behind me. I turned around in panic, only to see nothing. When I turned back around to pack my things, what I saw terrified the living daylights out of me. It was a creature of bones, with several small legs like a centipede and fins like a walrus. And its face, oh god, its face, it was like nothing I saw before. It had monstrous jaws like a crocodile with two prominent, pale white tusks that protruded upwards. Its eyes alone were a horror. It was like looking into a deep, dark void. It clambered out of the water at a rapid pace and screamed horrendously as it charged at me. I dropped everything and ran for my life at a breakneck speed, jumping over the roots and undergrowth plants. Behind me, I could hear the creature tearing through the undergrowth in its chase, but I did not dare to even take a peek back, instead opting to continue to sprint for home and safety. I must have been sprinting faster than I thought, as I reached my cabin in record time. I instantly made a beeline for the door, threw myself in, and slammed the door shut. However, things didn't end there, as the place seemed odd. It felt nothing like my cabin, as this place sent shivers down my spine just being here. I then entered the kitchen, only to be horrified at what I saw. There was blood everywhere, blood on the walls, blood on the floor, and blood even dripping from the ceiling. I immediately realized that this was the fake cabin the old man was talking about and hightailed it out of the house. As the instructions said, I ran 40 steps away from the house. As I ran, I heard the sound of bones crackling as the beast transformed. After I ran 40 steps or so, I turned around, and lo and behold, there was nothing but forest there. Huh, that was odd, I thought, so much for home and safety. I continued running on the trail, as the thing continued advancing on me. It had changed, and now it had become like the entity that the old man had mentioned. Long, spindly arms and legs, with a skull with huge antler horns on it. Its eyes, however, were just as evil as ever. Just thinking about them sent shivers down my spine. It roared at me so horrendously that for the life of me, I could never forget that sound. As I continued speeding through the forest, I realized I was so tired. My legs hurt, my body was sore, and I was drenched in the unrelenting downpour of the rain. And this here was where my luck ran out. In my panicked escaping, I did not notice a particularly large root that stretched on the path. I tripped and unceremoniously fell like a sack of bricks. Well, this is it. Shit was fun, I thought to myself, as the creature advanced on me in the few seconds it had, while I laid down confused and tired. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the inevitable fate of whatever the thing would do to me. And there was nothing. When I opened my eyes, wanting to see what went on, a small animal lunged at the monster, scratching and attacking it ferociously. I strained my eyes to catch a glimpse of the animal to identify it and realized that it was a black cat. Of course, it was the cat. If I wasn't so terrified, I would be laughing at the absurdity of it all. But as it was, I stared at it with shock. As the monster recoiled in terror, how the tables turn, the cat turned its lime green eyes at me and meowed a single loud meow. Not wanting to waste this golden opportunity, I took the hint and ran hard and fast and quickly reached what I hoped was my actual cabin. I threw open the doors, hurled myself in, and slammed the door shut before locking it and barricading it with my couch. I then ran into my bedroom and collapsed onto my bed, and sleep took me immediately. The next day, I woke up at around noon and stared blearily at the surrounding room, before the full weight of what had happened the previous night hit me like a jackhammer. Well, what can I say? That was a wild trip, and I barely escaped by the skin of my teeth. Well, now I knew the cat would help against the monsters of the land, but what was it? And what was it saying, and was it really on my side? Oh, and there was the question of what the hell lived on this land. What were these creatures, even? So many questions, so few answers. First, I had to focus on my growling stomach. After all, I had skipped yesterday's dinner and today's breakfast. After devouring my lunch, I dragged myself back to the lake where I had been fishing, as I had left all my gear and other things there when I fled the scene. Well, what was I expecting? My fishing equipment was ruined, my bag was ruined, and my sizable catch had been devoured with fish organs scattered everywhere, courtesy of the monster. I salvaged everything, put it in a bag, and dragged it home. I then planned to do something that didn't require me to exit the safety and security of my fence: gardening. The old man had maintained a garden in the yard right in front of the cabin, and I had planned to put it to great use growing my own food. While there weren't many plants that could thrive in these climates, I could make it work. Luckily, the small town around 20 minutes from me had a plant nursery where I could get everything I needed as far as plants went: seeds, gardening tools, fertilizers and the like. Nothing fancy honestly, all I was planning to grow for now was some cabbages, kale, peas and beets. The next day, after feeding my chickens, I walked over to the garden and was greeted by the earthy smell of the garden. Sure, it had laid fallow for months, but I could tell it had been taken good care of. And for the past few weeks, I had been monitoring the soil and adding fertilizer to it to ensure a good growing environment for the crops. Once I reached the plot, I took out my seeds and began digging little pits in the soil where each seed was to go. It would have been relatively easy work, but the weather was steaming hot and muggy. Just a few minutes of being out had me sweating buckets, and it wasn't even noon yet. I internally cursed myself for not bringing any sunscreen or wearing a long-sleeved shirt. As I wallowed in my misery, I hit something hard in the ground and was unable to dig any further. Oh my goodness, why does this thing have to make my life harder? I thought exasperatedly. Curiosity then took the better of me, and I dug around the object to see what was in there. It was a heavy lead block, with mysterious runes carved on it.